So I've gone ahead and created 3 files here: shortener.php, index.php and manage.php. Each of the files is blank except for the opening PHP line. Now we're not actually going to put much into the index.php because every time that a user goes to the index page, we actually want to refer them to the shortened URL, and so at the moment we can't actually put anything in here because that functionality hasn't been created yet. In the manage.php, the first thing that we're going to do is actually require the shortener.php file. So we're also going to create a new instance of the shortener. And we'll obviously come back and create that functionality in a moment. But that's all of the actual PHP codes that we're going to put in here for now. We will come back later and put some more in. But for now, we're going to actually create the actual template for the page. So if we refer back to the templates that we just looked at in the opening section, we can see that at the top here we have the title. We then have an error message part, which is actually showing a confirmation at the moment. And then we have this section where we actually do our inputs. So we're just going to create those different sections now. So we're going to have a main body. We're going to have our title here. We're going to have a section. We're actually going to use PHP here to generate our action so that we can move this file around without worrying about the actual location of the file within the server. And this means that if we wanted to, we could have this within a subdirectory or within the root directory, and we won't have to recode our scripts to actually account for the different file structures. And we're going to post the data across. Now, as you can see on the original template, we have this input box for the URL, and then we have a second input box for the shortened URL, as well as a third input field, in this case a button, to actually shorten the URL. So as you can see, we're going to use the input type URL. Within HTML5, this actually performs validation on the data within that field before it submits the form, to make sure that you're actually submitting your link to a valid URL. We're going to put a placeholder in here as well. And we're also going to specify that this is required, because obviously we want to make sure that the person has an actual link that they're submitting. Finally, we need to name the field, which is going to just be URL. So we're going to draw this down, and we're going to create our next field, which is the text field, which was the shortened URL. Now, we're not actually going to put a placeholder in here because you would never see it. It's always going to be populated for us. We will come back later and actually put in a code here to set the value though. So I'm just going to set the value to null for now, just as a placeholder, but as I say, we will create the PHP codes to generate the codes for us. Finally, we're going to create an input box for the button. It's actually going to be a submit button. And we're just going to get a value of shorten. Now you can see here that we've actually missed the middle section, this feedback section where we have currently the link to the last link that we created. We will come back to this part later on, but we will put the section here when it comes to it. Now, rather than creating a separate style sheet for this page, because it is just one page, I'm going to actually include some styling actually on this page itself. Now, many people will say that this is bad practice, but it's actually better practice than loading multiple pages, because loading multiple pages increases the page time load. So we're just going to set the main. You're obviously welcome to use whichever settings you like and style this however you like. And I'm just going to create two more classes here, error and error free. These will be the actual names, or the classes rather, of the sections containing either the error or the link to the new shortened URL. So if we take a look at this page now and refresh this, we're going to get this error because we actually made a mistake typing the name of the file. So if we refresh now, we're just going to get the error of the fact that we don't have this shortener class. So if we comment this out, we get what we hoped, which is very similar to what we originally looked at. You can see here, however, that the URL box isn't above the other two boxes like we intended, so we can go back and correct that. All we need to do is add the BR here, as a line break, and this needs the ID. And now this is exactly what we were looking at when we first loaded up the first instance of the URL shortener. The next thing that we need to do is to create the code within the shortener.php file, and we're going to do that in the next video, so stay tuned. So at this point we should now have the count of how many rows are in the database. So we're going to create a new variable called count, and we're going to just return that value.